Good overnight and welcome on in for another episode of From Day One. Without further ado, the conclusion of Art Bell and Jason Martell in Dominion.
UFO or 855-732-5836, and we'll begin taking questions from the audience after the break. Anything else that you really feel is important to get in before we do that?
Well, as we progress in the show, I definitely want to come back to this topic of a binary orbit and explain some of the current research being done by the Binary Research Institute to start to look for evidence that we are actually in a binary orbit.
And with two suns, right?
Correct. Binary means two suns.
Right. So should there not very soon now be some technological way to confirm that?
Yes. All of our space satellites, all of our advances in being able to do extrasolar detection, we're putting a lot of focus on the star system Sirius, which is actually Sirius A and B. It's two suns. But it's very likely that there are planets orbiting those suns. And many of these ancient cultures here on Earth, like the Dogons in Africa, no connection to technology, no telescopes, accurately cite that as where the gods are coming from.
There was something that I wanted to ask you about. After the continents moved, what evidence is there that all those thousands of years ago there was movement from continent to continent?
Well, as far as trade routes and such, we have two ways to answer that. First, we have ancient maps that some of these go back into the 1400s all the way up into the 1800s, where there's again no conveyance of craft like a glider or a hot air balloon, and we have accurate topography of the North and South Pole, which means the landmass is accurately defined underneath a mile-thick ice. No ground-penetrating radar, no flight craft, but somehow we have these ancient maps that show our land continents correctly underneath a mile thick of ice. How did they get that information? And then there's the idea that, these continents have, at some point, were connected because we see animals and species that have been on one continent and moved to another, as well as trade routes and things that over the thousands of years, we didn't think there was any transoceanic contact between these cultures, yet all the evidence is pointing to the fact that, yes, they were all somehow in a large global trade that we weren't aware of until now.
Okay, good enough. I'll hold it right where you are, Jason. Jason Martell is my guest. And when we come back, we are going to take calls. So if you want to be part of it, 855-REAL-UFO. Lots of Planet X talk out there right now. If you have a question, 855-732-5836. We are here. This is Dark Matter.
Transport your thoughts to Art or his guest by putting your browsing device to artbell.com and jump into the wormhole if you dare.
Or call us because the lines are open as of now, and the number is 855-REAL-UFO. That's 855-REAL-UFO. Converted to numbers, it's 855-732-5836. Now, one more thing. You're welcome to attempt to join us by Skype. And I don't have to accept you or anything. You can just make the call. I am Art Bell. Well, actually, Art.Bell51. So if you attempt to call me, it'll come true. Art.Bell51. For Jason Martell, we're talking about great cycles indeed. The possibility of a planet that comes back every now and then. We've dubbed Planet X. And what a disturbance that would cause. So, Jason, if you're ready, I sense that they are. Let's see what we get.
Okay.
You're on the air from California, Margie, with Jason.
Hey, hi, Art. I'm the negative lady again. And,
That's okay.
Anyway, I'm finding your show so interesting tonight. I was wondering, I read like the Torah or the 5 books of Moses, and a lot of things in that talk of the Nephilim, and that the Anakites are part of the Nephilim, and they ate, supposedly, as it says, and all the people they saw were of great size, and we look like grasshoppers to ourselves, and so we must have looked to them. But also, one of the things when they had sent scouts ahead when they were out in the desert, 12 tribes, the country that we traversed and scouted is one that devours its settlers. So, even in the Torah, or I don't know if that's even mentioned in the Old Testament, I was lucky enough to speak with a savant who was able to tell me, and so point blank, that the record number of things that were repeated in the Bible, blood was 447 times, chosen was 123, and the word seed was 280. It's just interesting that there's so many little clues, and I'm wondering whether the Nephilim would be coming in on the Nibiru or the
All right, that's certainly a fair question. We'll take that. Jason?
Well, I appreciate the call, and wow, I'm not sure if that's the Margie I know, but I do know someone named Margie in California closely, and that was a very interesting piece of information.
Is Marjorie, normally negative?
No.
This one is.
Okay, well.
Anyway, go ahead.
The Nephilim coming in on Nibiru, so the word Nephilim, the fallen ones, again, we're starting to talk about more recent descriptions, which I think, here's how I would answer it. We see an overriding theme that comes out of the Sumerian Anunnaki, the number 12. Nibiru is the 12th planet, Anunnaki coming from the 12th planet in our solar system. Well, if we think about, there's the 12 Greek Olympians, the 12 tribes of Jesus, the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 disciples of Jesus, 12 hours in a day, 12 months in a year, 12 inches in a foot. All of these references to 12 actually stem from Sumer, originally saying that their gods came from the 12th planet and created, again, based on astronomical movements, all of the things that we use today around time and measurement.
So the question was, are they going to be coming with the planet?
Well, I don't know. All I can say is that all the references we have for the idea of 12 gods in this system, it's very possible that Nibiru again was kind of the core story of all of these references to 12 in our biblical tales of the 12 disciples of Jesus or the 12 tribes of Israel, 12 Greek Olympians. So yes, there could be some correlation to the idea that the word Nephilim is referring to, again, these ancient gods, the Anunnaki.
All right. Mark in Pennsylvania. Hello.
Art?
Yes, sir.
Sidonian Roswells.
Thank you.
Jason?
Yes.
This is your old friend, Mark the Webmaster.
Yes. Hey, Mark, the face on Mars, the second face on Mars, the man who brought that to life.
That's correct. As well as, you might recall, the two dolphins, which get very little coverage, but just Google that, the two dolphins of Sidonia, you will find it's like there are two faces, there are two dolphins. These are not a case of pareidolia or any other made-up term that Michael Shermer's Skeptical Society might want to come up with. They are real, and they're part of something that, again, still needs to be brought out further, like you said. Now, I wanted to bring up, you guys have gone a little bit into DNA and the genetics earlier, but left kind of light on that. I really wanted to direct people and ask them to research chromosome 2. Now, what this is, as you know, all the other major primates all have 48 chromosomes, and the humans have 46. In other words, we went from 24 pairs to 23, and yet somehow lost a chromosome. Gosh, how does that happen? Well, what's been discovered, fitting right on, as you know, I am a Stitchinite, and I take his work to heart and consider him to be a genius on the level of Einstein, and later on, hopefully he'll be recognized as such. All of his work from the past leading up to now, from rogue planets that the Sumerians talked about before anybody had any sense of anything like that, now we know that there are billions of them flying or whizzing around each galaxy. So leading up from that oldest information to now, the chromosome 2 situation is the following. Somehow, even though there's never been another mammalian fusion of two chromosomes where it was based at the telomeres, somehow someone flipped over the third primate chromosome, fused it to the second primate chromosome, and that's why humans only have 23, not 24. And at the same time, a huge amount of DNA and genetic information seems to have appeared together at the same time. Scientists will say, oh, well, maybe when that fusion happened, some sort of the DNA from some bug got in there somehow. Okay? All of this fits specifically, precisely in the work of Zechariah Sitchin and the creation of humans by jump-starting evolution, taking that Homo erectus, something along those lines, and flipping over, fusing the genes together and inserting their own. There is still a little bit of an open question, well, what was that required for? We can't be absolutely
Chromosome 2.
Chromosome 2, and if everybody just dives into that further, I think all of our answers ultimately. I one time was riding in the subway through Bethesda, Maryland, and I happened to see a gaggle of about 20 of these guys working from the NIH and the genetics department, and I questioned them about this, and they went stone-faced when I confronted them with it. So, again, there's a lot of questions still out there, but I think all of Sitchin's work will ultimately be recognized as correct, on the large, the overall value of it. And chromosome 2, I think, is where we're all going to be able to find out exactly what went on when humans were created. And, again, this goes back to the lady earlier that was talking about the Torah and what have you. The Sumerian creation tablets are a much more detailed version of the book of Genesis, the first book of the Torah, the first scroll. You can see what you referenced before, MJ12. I actually don't take that as a joke. I actually personally think that was sort of a little bit of a tongue.
Who knows? Yeah.
When they set up the control group for the UFO phenomenon, I think they very well, definitely by then, had that sort of access to some of the old information. That's the 12th, the Anunnaki pass between Mars and Jupiter every 3,600 years. And again, for the people that were wondering how does that work, when you have a 3,600-year orbit that takes it 10 times out further than Pluto, and before it comes back from below the ecliptic and then comes back from beneath and passes through the asteroid belt, clearing out the space like you mentioned, when that planet is out there, it's not receiving really any energy from the sun. So it's likely that Nibiru is an internally heated planet, that the gold that they sought after to create the monoatomic golden sphere around their home planet was something that they could only achieve from another, an Earth-like planet where they could go and mine for the gold, which is why it specifically said they came here. And that's why they then ultimately, after there was the mutiny, and then Harsag and her half-brothers Enlil and Enki, dealing with this mutiny, decided to jumpstart evolution. And that's why they created the easily hypnotizable, gold-lusting after slave worker that we appear to have been, and ultimately built a worker/worshiper, which is why we brought the burnt offerings of the Hebrew Bible. That's just bringing cooked food to the Anunnaki beings. Which, by the way...
All right, caller, we're kind of short on time, so...
I'll just leave it at the question of, Jason, I hope you'll look further into chromosome 2, and if you can explore that further, I think that's got a lot of the answers that you might be searching for, and I hope you'll address that either tonight or in future shows.
Thanks for enthusiasm.
Probably have to be future shows, I would imagine. That's something you've got to look into. Very interesting, though. Very, very interesting. Obviously, a lot of people put a lot of stock in this. Ohio brings Jeff. Hi, Jeff. Let's see, did I? No, I didn't. Jeff, go ahead. Hello, Jeff.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure talking to you.
All right, you're not real easy. You don't have a very good connection, so go ahead.
I just have one question. We're always exploring, like the moon going I don't know the answer to this. Maybe do we ever explore behind us?
I'm sorry, again, please?
Do we explore behind us, behind the Earth? Like we're standing on the moon, looking at the Earth, the space behind the Earth. Do we explore that?
I think I understand what he's saying. The best answer I could probably give for the caller there is, as an example, let's say the dark side of the moon. There are areas within our solar system that are not completely visible to us, even with our telescopes. And so if I understood the caller, hopefully, as an answer, I would say places like the dark side of the moon actually contain a whole slew of theories that come out that there's actually a civilization currently on the moon, on the dark side, that when we landed there, we were told, hey, we don't really want you here. And even some of our astronauts is being quoted, why do you send us here in tricycles when the military is here in a Ferrari?
Actually, yes. I heard that very recently, that we were warned off the moon.
Yeah, so, I mean, who knows? And that's obviously a whole show in itself, exploring that topic, but I do find it fascinating.
So do I. David, you're on the air on Skype. Hello.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sounds really good. Well, as well as to hear you. Good to hear your voice. I really believe that we are an expanding Earth, and I know that the fellow who came up with that proposition died, but his proposition was not only was the Earth expanding, but the whole universe is expanding. Our solar system is, and the time frame between cycles, between the visit of Nibiru, I believe is actually shortening. And I don't believe that we have 9,000 years. We're closer.
Why do you think it's shortening? Because of the expansion?
Well, you had that notion yourself with the quickening. We seem to see that we're advancing towards another ice age pretty quick. And we just got out of the last one. And that hadn't happened before, so I'm just suspecting.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, please continue.
No, actually, I have your opinion.
Okay, so one quick clarification I would like to make is that Nibiru's coming back does not coincide with our ascension into the Golden Age, which will take place around 9,000 years from now. Nibiru returning is probably going to happen around, I think it's 2190 or something like that. It's not very far away as far as Sitchin's calculations. And forgive me if I'm wrong on that exact number, but it's actually not that far off, maybe, a few hundred years. But what's going to happen when this planet passes by us next, that would be hard to speculate on.
Okay. Louisiana and John. Hi, John.
Hi, Art.
Hello. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Recent listener, first time caller, really enjoy your show.
Thank you.
And Jason, I really enjoy your show and the History Channel also.
Sweet, thank you.
Anyway, my question is, you mentioned the global power grid that the pyramids could be part of, and the Mayan, Incan, Egyptian pyramids may have been part of. Now, has anyone ever drawn lines between all these locations to see if any kind of pattern emerges? And could there be other places that haven't been found yet? Let's say, for example, could the Bermuda Triangle be kind of a focal point for that power grid?
Well, that's a great question. Answer it like this. The geodetic sites like Stonehenge and Giza is actually on the exact center point of our landmass. And so many of these other sites, again, are at specific geodetic locations where it is possible that there was some type of an energy or something that they were utilizing, a world energy grid, to tap into this type of power.
He asked about lines, whether...
Right. The other thing to at least say there is that there is a term called ley lines, and it seems that, yes, many of these megalithic sites do fall on these ley lines, these energy, signatures that, again, we don't really understand how this functions or if there's enough energy now even to detect it. But the theory is that at some point in our past, these were all charged sites that somehow transferred energy between them.
Boy, it really sounds like a lot of what you're saying is falling in line with some of what Richard Hoagland talks about when he talks about when he talks about everything, actually. A lot of what you're saying...
3.14, I know.
Well, it does. Let's see. Texas brings John. Hi, John.
Hello, Art. The Sirius is really cool. I just stopped the broadcast so I can listen to myself later. Speaking of chromosomes, my question is, are we still slaves? I mean, I guess Anunnaki came here and enslaved us, or one of the brothers apparently enslaved us.
Nothing but a bunch of gold diggers.
Right. And so I saw with a friend a UFO when I was young, and that wasn't a problem. And then when I got a little bit older, both of my sisters on separate occasions showed me UFOs. One out of my older sister's bedroom window at night behind the curtains.
They were flying around the house, and I said, what are they here for? Well, what are they doing? She said, well, they're here to protect them. The next one was my younger sister out of my bedroom window at night.
And how does this relate to Jason?
Well, okay, it has to do with slavery. Okay, speaking of chromosomes, because nothing happened to me, and how did my sister know to point out these UFOs?
Well, I actually love the caller's comment and question, and I answer it this way. There's an excellent 12-hour miniseries by Steven Spielberg called Taken, and it shows the involvement, and even Art's obviously a play off in there with driving around in his trailer with the genetic little girl, which I'm sure you're familiar with. But Taken is an excellent series that shows these lineages, the lineage track through an abduction channel. And who knows? But, I mean, I think something like Taken is an excellent documentary that sheds light into that type of a question. Because,
to be fair, it wasn't a documentary. It was actually fiction, right?
You're right. I should use... I use the word documentary loosely because they used tangible references like you.
Well, they did.
Okay. And a trilateral symbol on the clothing of some of the people and Wackenhut security. The point is, certain things in our media and, I think Taken, to answer your question, is an interesting topic into why I might be lying in bed and I would get abducted, but not my fiance. Not that I get abducted, but my point is that sometimes it's very genetically selective. Even outside of our family unit, they might want the child rather than the mother. I don't know why, but it is a very interesting question.
Okay. Montana brings Bud. Hi, Bud.
Howdy. How you doing tonight?
Fine.
Well, I was just kind of wondering because, I'm a big fan of Art, and I'm a big fan of Jason, and I'm a big fan of the program Ancient Aliens. I'm big. Jason talked a little earlier about how different solar systems in the universes actually get closer to each other, and that gives us an ability to fly from one to the other as aliens go. And I was wondering, because I'm into this, like I was in Alaska when Hale-Bopp went by, and it was beautiful up there. I mean, wow. Did you guys see this? Did you read Discover magazine this month? With this new comet that's coming in that they discovered about...
Ison, you mean? There's
another comet coming in.
Are you referring to Ison?
They said it left the Oort cloud.
Sir?
And
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Are you talking about Ison?
Yep.
Okay.
And it's going to be here next fall. Now, these comets have a gravitational effect on Earth is when they come by.
You're right. They also have a static charge that affects our planet's electromagnetics. It's a really great point, sir. These things, have been cited many times where I'm not scared. I don't think anything's going to happen, but I do think it's interesting that now we're starting to pay attention. And
because they're
the comet,
like the clock.
Yeah,
they're like this. Did I lose you?
No. Please continue. They're like
that device that they found in the sea out there that was so precise. And our universe and our solar system is just like that. I mean, it's a big clock that just works like that.
Yeah.
I've always thought that. And when you're on your show, Ancient Aliens and everything, and you're explaining this, I love it. And I just wanted to, just your thoughts on these comets coming in. I don't think anything's going to happen either as far as this comet, because they've already got it projected, and they ain't even going to be here till next fall. Yeah.
Actually, Ison will be the closest approach to the sun, I believe, in November. I think that's correct. At the end of November is what I've heard. Now, I know that comets have pretty significant impact on the sun, and a lot of people believe that comets have a very significant relationship to our sun, and frequently when there's a comet around, you see an awful lot of activity on the sun, and I would like to point out that right now we have lots of activity on the sun. Any comments, Jason?
Well, I think it's very interesting that comets in ancient times were always a precursor to some event or
That's
a
right.
change. And, there's also the idea that any large body moving through our solar system, whether it be a planet X or anything, those gravitational forces are effect, so that there could be debris following any large object. So that, if we were to start seeing an inflection of a lot of comets, maybe that's a precursor to something else, headed this way.
Okay, hold it right there. Our number is 855-REAL-UFO. Our guest is Jason Martell, and we're talking about ancient astronauts. I'm Art Bell, and it's Dark Matter. Remember, we've got Skype available for you. So if you want to call us on Skype from anywhere, actually, we'll just open it for all. But I'd love to hear from you out of the country. If you're actually out of the country, be glad to have you get through. Or within the country, I guess, too. The way to dial is art.bell51. That's my Skype name, art.bell51. Jason Martell is my guest, and back to the lines we go. Let's go here. California, Mike, hi.
Hello, Art Bill. It's been a long time since I've heard you. Last time I was listening to you, you were on FM. You could probably tell me how many years ago that was, but I just recently got a vehicle with satellite radio and rediscovered you. And been listening tonight. And Jason, I've got a big question for you in regards to biblical prophecy.
Okay.
Yeah. The accuracy of past biblical prophecy leading up to today and the way the world is today, and Revelation and its future biblical prophecy. Seems to me like somebody would have had to have an ability to travel through time to be as accurate as the Bible is and has been. I'm a born-again Christian, and I definitely believe that God created everything, the heavens and the earth, and that he is outside of time. And
there you go, Jason.
He caused this Bible to be written for us, basic instruction before leaving Earth. And I just wondered what your take on the future biblical prophecy about Jesus' return and the way that the world is going today is to me, it seems like it's very, very accurately predicted in the Bible. Yeah. I'll let you answer that, and I'll listen on the air. Thank you.
I think that Jason's, I'm going to say something. I think that Jason's take on things is not in opposition to the Bible, but rather he thinks that the Bible documents along with what he believes to be the way things happen. Right, Jason?
Thank you, Art. Yes, I very much so, from the beginning of my interest, am trying to uphold the biblical veracity. Very much so. And that's where it started to get very interesting to me when I, find out about these things like the Anunnaki and the Sumerians. So, as far as the Bible being accurate and things coming in the future, I, too, as a young Christian, found things very interesting when I started to get a foothold into the field of ufology and just kind of tangentially noticed that things happening in the Middle East are escalating and have been, and I don't really know what any of that means from the biblical angle because, we're in a state of exponentially, speeding up. You're quickening, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So the biblical prophecy of the future is very hard to predict. What I do is give analogies that hopefully shed light into, reality. Let's just say all of a sudden, over Wilshire Boulevard in Beverly Hills, these clouds emerge and this bright light spewing out of the clouds, and all of a sudden, Jesus, a figure that looks like Jesus in white robes, is descending into the middle of the street. What would happen, right? People would freak out. And then our sciences would take over. We'd want to test the atmosphere around Jesus, the gas that he's ascending on. How's it holding him up? Is it cloth material? What is it made of? Right? We would take that approach. We would want to use our sciences to go, oh, I'm blinking twice. What's going on? Right. Nothing like that ever publicly happens or has in our lifetime. Now, all the ancients recorded these amazing events like that. So it's a very hard question to answer what's going to happen in the future. And the mention of time travel is the last piece I'd like to comment on. Philip Corso Jr., his book, and the understanding that we've been taking the Roswell craft back in time over and over, making it easier for us to reverse engineer. It's a whole other topic that we couldn't even cover tonight, but I'm a firm believer in the idea that we must be using some type of time travel. There's never been an alien invasion. There's never been a nuclear weapon detonated. And I don't think there will be if we had the ability to foresee these events and then change the parameters so that they don't come to light.
Okay. So you think time travel is a reality and in use constantly?
I unfortunately do, but I don't fully comprehend it. Yeah.
On Skype, Jim, you're on the air.
Hi, Art. There's a little bit of delay, so my timing's a little bit off.
Well, just turn your radio off and not to worry.
You got it.
Yeah.
I have been noticing many discussions over the last 20 years about Sitchins and the Anunnaki, and one of the things that really intrigues me is the possibility, there's a quotation, the Anuna, the gods, whom An conceived in the sky. And, I've always conceived of a visiting civilization, inhabiting a planet or a really huge, orbiting object of some sort. And I wonder how much thought the gentlemen have put into that concept of visiting gods on a planetary object.
Quite a bit, apparently. Jason?
Right. Well, if I understood the question, the idea that we've had gods visiting us and they're coming from, a spaceship / planet. Nibiru has been in question for ever since the idea that there is a Nibiru, a planet that we potentially have ancient gods that live on. Is Nibiru a spaceship? Is it a planet? All the evidence points to the fact that it's an actual planet based on the descriptions by the Anunnaki given directly to a human being and written down. The Nibiru is a very mountainous planet. It has very high mountain peaks and very low oceans.
How do we know this?
Well, we don't. We only have the descriptions of what the Anunnaki told the Sumerian scribe with a priest present, and they wrote it down as sacred information.
Okay.
So Nibiru is a mountainous planet, low water level, and has a certain type of a glow to it. And the Anunnaki themselves are said to have had a glow. That's why we see a halo around these angels and beings from the heavens, is because they literally glow to a certain degree. It's kind of like you are what you eat, and coming from a glowing planet, they maintain that phosphorescence naturally.
All right, let's go to North Carolina, and Benjamin, you're on the air with Jason Martell.
Hi, I just had a question about the Egyptian pyramid. I've heard you talk about the pyramid on a couple different shows and then also today. Is it possible that the Egyptians had such a large, strong army that this army built those pyramids for their pharaoh? Or is it
well, that certainly would be the story. If you ask an Egyptian antiquities person, they would absolutely tell you that, yes, that is how it occurred. A lot of slave labor, the army, yes, like that. But if you talk to engineers and you talk to scientists, they will talk about the impossibility of, and frankly, in modern times, they've tried to duplicate the pyramids with no luck at all.
They'd have to move like a stone every 2 minutes or something, 24 hours a day, not even counting the 7,000 tons of several, trilithiton blocks that are put into place. All right.
Does that help you?
I guess. I've been kind of curious to know how the Egyptian pyramids were put there also.
Yeah, so are we. Thank you very much. Your best guess, Jason, about how the pyramids got there?
My best guess is that there was a lost culture here that could have been human or a hybrid. It's a reference to those beings I mentioned earlier that we see at Ibotta Valley in Indonesia, or the Moai heads in Rapa Nui, or the beings depicted at Göbekli Tepe. These slender beings with the arms folded at the waist. It seems to be that there is a lost race or civilization, that they were the ones that were doing all the vitrification of stone and building all these monuments accurately and perfectly. And then all the cultures that we now know of have retained that information as best they could.
All right, to Canada, way up north, and Doug. Hi, Doug. Hello, Doug.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
Okay.
Hey, Art. Hey, James. How you doing? The question I had was, how come mostly, I'm not sure, but Caucasians all have 2 chromosomes less than the Aboriginals over in Australia?
Well, I'd unfortunately have to bow out on that question, and would just be giving you, information that I couldn't exactly relate to that exact question. So.
Okay, because that was my question. I just want to know, because I was reading on the internet that the Aboriginals have 2 more chromosomes than the Caucasians.
Gee, I wasn't aware of that. That's worth pursuing in terms of just knowledge. I'd like to know myself.
Yeah. Thank you. And I know a caller earlier, my friend Mark, who, brought up chromosome 2, that ties into that at all. But, again, our genetics, I think, the deeper we look in there, the further out we might realize we actually come from.
You mentioned something earlier I've been curious about for a very long time, Jason, and that is so-called junk DNA.
Right.
I doubt that it's junk. I mean, whether it was God that laid it all out, or an alien, or whoever.
We could be offending somebody by calling it junk.
Yeah, referring to it as junk DNA probably, I guess I don't buy that. It means something.
Yeah, it's kind of like your tonsils. It does something, we just don't know what it is.
All right, to North Carolina again, and Les. Hi.
Hey, Art. Minnie Roswell's to you. Jason, according to your the best map available, where would Planet X be coming from? And I'll take my answer off the air. Thank you guys.
Oh, that's a really, really, really good question. If you were going to look in a direction, Jason, and you were directing a telescope to keep an eye out, where would you tell them to look?
The southern skies. That's actually a great question, because it ties into what I kind of wanted to touch on earlier, but hopefully for a future show we'll dive really deep into the whole idea of a Planet X and its current orbit, because everyone up to this point is plotting Planet X on an orbit that's just around our one sun. So if we think about the fact that we're binary, Planet X is probably, if it does exist, it's orbiting 2 suns. That's why it can go way out there and loop back around. There might be another gravitational field because of our second sun that causes it to swing back this way.
Okay, just a basic question, Jason. Why can't we see the second sun?
We can't see the second sun because we don't know where it is.
Well, but a sun, by its nature, even if it's a red dwarf or not particularly bright, is bright compared to other objects, right?
It is, Art. It is. But when we flip on the telescope, there's like 2,000 suns and rogue planets floating around, and we don't know all of their trajectories. We choose and pick ones that are interesting to the scientific community and track it. But there's very large possibilities that we've already taken astronomical place of the southern sky, and Planet X is in there, but we just don't know which one it is.
All right, let's go to California and Danny. Hi, Danny.
Hi, Art. How are you?
Fine.
I just wanted to talk about maybe some of the other artifacts found that might support some of the strange buildings in Egypt, and just talk about a little bit more of some of the things that were found.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to make a comment then about Egypt, which is very interesting for our view of the past. There is a series anyone can rent or check out called the Pyramid Code. And it was produced by an awesome lady named Dr. Carmen Bolter. And what this shows in the Pyramid Code is the fact that the Egyptian culture, the earliest Egyptian cultures, existed in a matriarchal state, where we're now in a patriarchal state. What this means is there was a time in the earliest Egyptian dynasties where they were in complete harmony with nature. There was a balance between male and female, and it wasn't this male-dominated society that we have today. And so a lot of the a lot of the hieroglyphics and various scenes depicting ancient Egypt in the early dynasties are not viewed correctly through our current patriarchal male-dominated state. If we could understand the context of ancient Egypt where there was more of a balance, there are things that we just don't understand. And let me give you one little example. We think we have 5 senses. The early Egyptians believed in 360 senses. And somehow the pineal gland and various other glands within us are like muscles. And over thousands or maybe just hundreds of years, we've not exercised those muscles and they've shrunk down to 5 senses. But it appears the ancient Egyptians could literally stand in front of you and just size you up and know things about you far beyond what we understand today.
Okay. To Canada and Dave. Hi, Dave.
Many miles older.
Hi.
Hi. I just sort of wondering, Jason sort of mentioned, I guess he sort of already answered the question in a way. But, you know, like you see these representations of like space shuttle looking things and airplanes and then you have the astronauts, you know, with the helmets almost looking.
Rockets, light bulbs, lots of stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't want to start another show. Well, actually, that'd be great. Do you suppose that the military maybe has like say back in the 60s or something has some sort of time travel technology where the space men that we know today could possibly be what they saw back then, like that they might have traveled to the past?
What a fascinating question.
That's a good one.
What a truly fascinating question. Thank you. Yes, they did draw these things that we have today. So could that be a function of time travel? Something they observed from perhaps our relatively recent future?
Yeah.
I mean, in other words, by the time we create time travel, some of these things would be seen back then because we caused it to occur. Jason?
Well, a lot of the theories, too, around some of the descriptions of, you know, the grays as an example, it's some people hypothesize that on our evolutionary track of going into space, we'd use less of our limbs and more of our cerebral, and so we might actually evolve into a state of looking like a gray. And so that's why they're coming back and messing with us, is because that's us in the future, just thousands and thousands of years evolved into a space race. Not sure about that, but I do think it's an interesting idea to look at it from the idea that, yes, time travel, I do believe, is something that we have access to now. So why wouldn't we have also gone back into the past and flown around and done stuff? And yeah, I mean, if that's the case, it makes sense that ancient man very accurately was depicting us using conveyances of flight with some type of time travel device slapped on the wing or something, you know?
It'd be Brandon in Canada.
Hello?
Brandon, hello.
Okay, I never heard you say my name. I was listening about your talk in the Bible, and are you aware that the Bible talks about in Revelations the asteroids that are going to be the weight of a man coming down, the powers of the heavens being shaken numerous times in the New Testament, frightful sights in the heavens, another flood coming.
Well, that would be the return of X.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Bible is full of, throughout it, that I've read, references to everything that you're talking about tonight.
Right. Well, you know, the book of Revelations, wormwood, Armageddon, there are various biblical terms that, yes, seem to tie into other cultures and even earlier versions of the tale. But as we get more clarity into the topic of Armageddon, I still, for me personally, don't fear or think that it's coming on its way, simply because of all the evidence that we're finding scientifically, like this larger cycle of time that lasts 24,000 years, and the ancients, like the Mayans and various other cultures, tracked it. We're only here for a speck of time, and I don't want to be too hubristic to think that within 100 years, it's all going to go down.
Okay. Illinois, Lauren, hello.
Hey, how's it going, Lauren?
Hi.
I was wondering if Jason thought Isom and Planet X had some sort of relation.
ISON and Planet X?
Yes, I think it's interesting that a lot of comets have a very similar elongated orbit, similar to what Planet X's orbit is, where it extends beyond our solar system and possibly passes through the Oort cloud, which is essentially another asteroid belt just billions of miles out there. So, whether it's Planet X or a comet, there could be, and there's science behind this, the term nemesis, someone can Google it, but there's research to show that the asteroid belt that's out there, the Oort cloud, could be maybe Planet X or comets somehow dislodge debris from there and periodically bring them towards us. And that's possibly what could kill the dinosaurs.
Does the fact that ISON is now becoming visible and becoming close and will make a close pass to our sun, does that mean that X may be close?
I think if we see an influx of more solar activity of objects and debris coming into the inner solar system, yes, I think that should raise a concern because, if there is a large planet, it's going to have a lot of debris and comets that get stuck into its gravitational pull in front of it and behind it. And so my gut tells me that if we were to start to see more things being reported, then that might raise an eye for concern, or it could be that our near-Earth asteroid program is actually kicked into high gear and they're actually doing something now.
Well, maybe, but we get an awful lot of reports, Jason, of that go about like this. Yesterday, astronomers tell us Earth had a very close encounter.
Right. I know.
And I hate that. I mean, yesterday, not good. So you think a lot of things like ISON. There was another comet, by the way, that blew up recently. Just a few days ago. And so we are getting quite a bit of this sort of thing. And you actually think it could indicate Planet X is somewhere.
Well, again, I don't think Planet X is nearby from the simple point that our amateur astronomy community would be very astute at seeing something 4 to 8 times the size of Earth, let alone a comet. But I just think that if there was an influx of debris all of a sudden being noted hitting the sun and us, that might raise an eye for concern.
Yeah, we should look harder. All right, to Boyle out in Canada. Canada and Greg, hi.
Yes, Roswell's to you both. Art, Jason.
Thank you.
I got a quick question. I'm curious about the pyramids, and could we not combine the technologies and find out if there's any? I was listening to their show the other day. EMPs, is it possible?
Electromagnetic pulse.
Yeah, the white noise, the recordings of the white noise in Egyptian pyramids.
So you're saying could we start to detect resonance?
Has anybody tested that at all?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm pretty sure that someone has, but that would probably be more in the realm of ghosts, paranormal indications like that. So while I find it fascinating, it's not something that I've pursued or would be able to tell you a line of research.
It would give information on how their language is and the accent and how it's spoken correctly, right? No?
Again, we're talking about trying to detect dead people talking in these ancient sites.
Yeah.
Then yes, I guess it's possible. And that would be a very interesting piece to throw into the mix. Unfortunately,
what would be really interesting, Jason? It would be interesting for some of these people who do EVPs to go to some of the kind of sites that we're talking about right now.
Exactly. I think that's exactly what the caller is saying, and that is, the cool idea. But I'd have to throw out there that for me personally, it falls into the line of evidence like channeling aliens or psychic abilities. Unless I have, with our current science, as a way to test it, I can't do anything with it other than find it fascinating.
Okay, all right. Hold tight for a moment. We'll be right back. You're listening to Dark Matter, and this night it's with Jason Martell from the High Desert, the Great American Southwest. I'm Art Bell. That is a cool number, and that's the one you dial. And if you want to get hold of me on Skype, all you have to do is call. I am art.bell51. And people say, well, you have to accept me as on your list. No, doesn't have to work that way. You can just dial on Skype. You could probably even do it from your iPhone or whatever phone you have. If you have Skype, art.bell51. Give us a ring. We'll get you on the air. In the meantime, Jason Martell is my guest, and we are now going to, let's go to Georgia. Down to Georgia and Arnold. Hi, Arnold.
Hey, Giga Roswell's Art.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to ask Jason, the two civilizations that I never hear ever visited by aliens are Greece and Rome. It seems to always be non-European, non-Caucasian civilizations that got visited by the aliens and needed their help. And not the Greeks and Romans, even though their architecture is massively more advanced than anything the Egyptians or the Aztecs had, and they had things like the arch, which are massively more advanced than the pyramids.
Great question. And, actually, there is a lot of influence in the Greco-Roman era, but what we see it through is mainly through art. Even in the Renaissance age, we see various depictions of UFOs and flying shields and things that are put into the artwork. And really, when we talk about Greek and Roman mythologies, it's always around 12 gods, which is exactly what the Sumerians talked about, their 12 gods, the gods coming from this 12th planet, and a whole systematical breakdown of time and measurement of 12 hours in a day, 12 inches in a foot, 12 in a dozen, the 12 zodiacal houses of the zodiac breakdown of the heavens. All of that comes from Sumer, and I think is spidered out to other cultures like the Greeks and Romans picking it up as well.
All right. Illinois and Dwayne. Hi, Dwayne.
Hello?
Hello?
Diane.
Diane, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I had a question. If we're truly binary, as Jason believes, is that what's causing the effect? And what effect does that have on the Earth? And is it possible that's the explanation for some of the catastrophic things we're having and, the warming of the planet and that kind of thing?
It's a good question, Diane, and I think all of them are connected to some degree, but how I'd answer it is this, this idea that there's this larger cycle of time based on a binary orbit is very interesting because anyone can even study things like in the Vedic ancient texts, they called it the yugas. A good friend of mine, Walter Cruttenden, who runs this thing called the Binary Research Institute, it's another thing you can Google, the Binary Research Institute, but there's a good amount of data that shows there could be a very interesting connection between our binary orbit in that when the suns are at their closest, we seem to be here on Earth, maybe it's because of the energies of the sun or it's something we don't understand, we're very highly evolved. When the suns are at their farthest point, we seem to be in the dark ages. There is a lot of good research to suggest that this is the cause of why we have a rise and fall of civilizations here on Earth is because of this connection with our binary orbit.
Okay, like I said, I was just wondering if this is, how they're saying global warming and all this. Could that be explained? Because how the moon affects tides, could the sun also affect the Earth in other ways? You understand what I'm asking?
I think I understand what you're saying, and there's a lot of people out there that look at like spots on various planets and see like an upwelling of energy and think that there's a connection or various planets are heating up. I don't know what that could be other than maybe it's because our suns possibly are they're on their way being closer together, and there's this buildup of energy that's already starting to take place, and it's going to continue to expedite itself over the next few thousand years.
All right. Gene in Pennsylvania, you're on the air.
Hey, I was just wondering what was your take on star seeds and, their whole ploy to be sent here to help the humanity transition into the new age.
Okay, well, I definitely am a believer that there is a hybridization project to some degree, maybe with more than one alien species. I say that with a somewhat degree of confidence in that if you took this to a court of law, the amount of evidence to stack up in that people who have been abducted, creditable people too, claim to, around the world, have encounters aboard a spaceship where the woman clearly knows that the being has brought her a child that came from her, but it's not completely human. Over and over, there seems to be some type of intervention with us and alien species to interbreed us. Who knows for why? I couldn't even tell you.
Okay, Ron in Colorado, you're on the air with Jason Martell.
Hi, Art. It's great to hear your voice again after all these years.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My question is, whatever happened to Halebop? I know it came through. I watched it in the summer of '97, just as clear as a bell with the two wings, and it did bear a striking resemblance to the glyph of Nibiru that was in Sitchin's books, and I read them all. And I just wondered whatever happened to that planet. Where did it go? I mean, we should have seen it on its return. Yeah, the comet. We should have seen it return on its return.
I think it's got a longer return time than that, I believe.
Right. Yeah, I think, sir. Again, I'm not accurate, but I would say that Hale-Bopp's comet was similar to Nibiru in that it was very elongated, and it's probably not going to come around into the inner part of our solar system for a very long time. Let's say it's on a 3,600-year comparable orbit to Nibiru. You know, it might not be around for a long time, but I can't be extremely accurate to tell you exactly when that would be. But I know it has an elongated orbit, so it's probably going quite a distance out before it'll return.
All right. Jesse in Utah. Hi there.
Hey, how's it going, Art?
Just fine.
I was just curious. The Bible, a lot of stories in the Bible, they seem like fantasy, but when
Sir, hold it. Turn your radio off, please.
Sorry about that. When you add in the fact of extraterrestrial beings, the stories make a lot more sense. I was just curious if maybe chances they just left out, aliens basically out of the Bible.
Well, sir, I think it's just a different slant on the term alien or angel. All throughout the Bible, Ezekiel seeing wheels within wheels, Elijah being taken up to heaven in a whirlwind, Moses on the mountain having this interaction with a burning bush and this energy source up there. I think what it is just a different interpretation of what we would today call alien. Back then, they simply used the term God. But I think this is all a factual case of what took place in the past, but they didn't understand a spaceship or a space shuttle, so they gave references to things around them, like a burning bush or a chariot in the sky.
Okay, very quickly, Ron in Canada.
Hi, it's a privilege to talk to you, Art, and years ago, my wife and I went to Chichen Itza, and before they closed the pyramid, and I climbed to the top of Chichen Itza and spent about 45 minutes up there just observing the landscape and getting the feel of what it was like up there. And you couldn't help but feel and wonder what really went on there. Like, they had an observatory there, and on the top of the pyramid, there's the little tomb and the small room that was up there that was really insignificant to anybody who really didn't know much about Chichen Itza and the pyramid there and stuff. I'm just
all right, well, we'll have to hold it there, I'm afraid. Jason, we are absolutely out of time.
Totally understand.
It's gone. I want to thank you for being here. Do you have any place you want to refer anybody to? I noticed you haven't written a book yet, so you haven't been...
I do have a book. It's called Knowledge Apocalypse. It's available on Amazon, Knowledge Apocalypse. My final note would just be that it was an honor to be on your show, and I hope to be back when I fill you in on expeditions we're doing in 2014. My God, I can't say that number.
It's a long show.
And we're going to be using commercial-grade drones to be getting some interesting B-roll.
Wow. Okay, I'll look forward to it, and I certainly appreciate your appearance on the program tonight. Take care.
Art. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's Jason Martell. And that's it, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. We'll be back and do it again tomorrow. Don't forget the ghost photographs. We're judging them. And, of course, ghost stories. Email me. I'm artbell at artbell.com. Good night.
And from the great American Southwest, that was Art Bell with Jason Martell. that will also bring us to a close for this evening as well. Oh, let me stop the tape. Stop the tape. It was automatically queuing into my next tape. I was like, no. I don't think anybody wants to hear about the Japanese earthquake power plant at Fukushima. That was the next episode I have on tape. It's like, yeah, no, cancel that one. Alright, so with that again, we will bring this to a close. As always, please make sure you do like, share, and subscribe to go ahead and help us out. Get to that 50,000 views, 1,000 subscribers. So Boxy over at Extra sends those nice red packages, and of course, YouTube puts us on the algorithms. Until then, as always, have a great evening. Like, share, and subscribe. Be kind to one another, and release the Krakens. As we march along as we do every night, here from day one. Have a great night's sleep. We'll see you tomorrow.